Here's a really fun structure that I've been enjoying for many years. I call it open and close because that's exactly what it does. It has this fun way of opening, like onto a stage. You can see the dimension there, and there's things hanging in the middle, and then it closes back up. It's made from, it needs to be made from sort of a stiff paper. You can sort of see that's a card weight paper. There's that sort of clothesline in the middle, and it's attached on in this one very simply. And even after all these years, it works just fine. All these years meaning I got it in February 2008 from my friend Mary, who would go into Chinatown and get these awesome cards and send them to me. So there's a lot of little details here to be aware of. I do have templates made for them that should be connected to this video in the description. And here's how it goes. I'm using this this paper. It's a stiff paper. I like something even a little stiffer than this, especially for the front piece. But this will work fine. Let me just show you some of the differences. This one is made from, kind of regular, widely available card weight paper, and you can see that it works just fine. It just doesn't have a little, that little extra bit of oomph to it. This is made with that same paper, but what I've done here is I've put, oops, there we go. I've laminated, just glued it to another paper, and it gives it just a little bit more. It gives it a little bit more, I don't know, stability. What I really like, though, is to take the template here, glue it to some cardboard, like from a cereal box. This is from a cereal box. And then put another paper on the front. And now I really like the feel of this. But I'm going to be making it from here, and I'll finish off using this as well, though. So first thing you want to do is cut things out. You need two of the same, pretty much identical pieces. It would be better, ideally, it would be better if this was one long sheet. But most people don't have access to 11 by 17 inch printers, so I like to make these on 8.5 by 11. If you use this as, let's say you want to use a really heavy paper that won't print on, that won't go through your copy paper, go ahead, cut this out, make it into a pattern, and then make this into one long piece, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So yeah, you start off by cutting these out. These are the cut lines. You cut here and here, and these are the fold lines. So here, I've got it cut out for you, so we don't have to do that part. And what I like to do is I like to remind people that when you do your score lines, and I do want you to put them in, you do the score lines on a softer surface. Let me see, where's my scoring tool? Of course, I always think I have everything set up. And so what I'll do is I'm just going to make it score lines on these. It just makes it nicer. 1, 2, and this could be on the back of your structure. You don't need to see these dotted lines because it works in both directions. Also cut these little lines here and be pretty precise with cutting them. You might have to do an adjustment if you're not precise. I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, this goes together pretty simply. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make that little box right here. Right? So I'm going to let my dotted lines show because I just want it to be clear. But when you do yours, you can make it go in the other direction so the dotted lines don't show. Holding on the score lines. There it goes. Okay, now I want you to notice a couple of details. Those little lines that are cut, they go right to that fold line. Okay, so that's sort of important because we're going to be putting them together and we want this middle to match right there in the center together. So I'm just going to weave these into each other. There we go. Now, that looks perfect. Sometimes what might happen is that you might not be paying enough attention and they might not go all the way together. In that case, you just need to push them together. If you haven't cut your lines deep enough, they will never go together, so you'll have to go in and cut them more deeply. On this one, unfortunately, I didn't catch that until later, and so now there's a permanent little gap there. I know it fit perfectly when I did it, but then when I glued it, it must have come a little bit undone. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to be extra careful to make sure. Maybe I'll use a paper clip or something. Yeah, here's a clip. I'm going to put a clip there and take my glue. You can see when you're manipulating these how easily it could come undone. Just put enough glue there to keep it, to get it going, to get it glued down. There we go. I'm just putting nice light amount of glue there. Now this little this connecting area will show in the final piece, but there's something that we can do that's very nice that sort of makes it disappear. Okay, so this is done, and I could probably do it on the back too, make it a little more secure. But right now I want to check again to make sure that it is still meeting in the middle, and it is. Okay, good. So now we can do the next part, which is cut out this funny little piece, okay, with the long legs. Okay, it's sort of like a sign with the long legs. There is this piece too that's an optional thing to cut out, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but right now we need this piece. And so here's what I was showing you before, is that I've got this piece and it's glued onto a cereal box. I'm not going to use this in today's video, but you get the idea. I don't even have to cover that. That's sort of pretty. Okay, so now you've got this, and if you're working on your own and you're comfortable working with craft knives, you have no problem cutting this out. And what I like to do is I like to take my awl and I like to actually poke right there in the corners before I do my cutting. Okay, so I've got those all done. And the reason I like to do that is because it's just, whether I use my ruler or not, here I can use my ruler, I like having that sort of like starting and stopping point that I can feel under my knife to do the cutting. So lots of times I'll just cut this by eye. Now, if you're working with kids and doing this, obviously you can't, especially if they're young kids, you don't want to use this. What you can do to cut it out, to have the kids cut it out, is have them curl it, not fold it. See, it's not folded, it's just curled. You do a little cut in the middle. I can actually go pretty deep there. You can see it doesn't really impact the areas above and below that you don't want to see a fold in. And then you can go around and cut those areas out. You know, use the scissors and go all the way around. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use my cutting tool. Okay, so there it is. Again, I can use this just the way it is with my piece over here. And yeah, I think maybe I will. And I'm going to demonstrate with the heavier one later. Some things you've got to think about. Let's say you are doing what I talked about, which is gluing it to a piece of cardboard and then putting other paper on. Let's say you wrap the paper around for some reason. You want to check to make sure that this top piece fits in perfectly. Well, it can be smaller, but you don't want it to be any bigger than the space between these little divots at the top. So you see, I want to check. Lots of times, I don't know, my cutting's a little off or something, and it won't fit in just right. But I can see that this is just fine. Okay, so it fits in between these two places. If it doesn't, it's gonna warp and be kind of weird and funny. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is fold these over. And what you'll do is you'll make sure that this edge here is lined up exactly with the edge of the piece that we're working with. There we go. So now we bring it over and make sure it's lined up. Next thing is to fold these down in front. Folding it down in front just so I can get the fold exactly where I want it. There it is. And then take that apart. And I can't do any gluing until this next piece is attached. So, not attached, but they're lined up. Actually, I think what I can do here is I'll use my little tool here, and it doesn't really matter if the yellow is lined up perfectly at this point, because we're not putting any glue on the yellow. This white piece creates a sleeve for the doors and back. So here I'm putting a little bit of glue, a lot of glue, or just the right amount of glue on that little fold over. Make sure it's attached only to the section that has the window in it. And the same thing over here. See, it doesn't really matter that the yellow is coming apart because the yellow is not being glued. It's sliding through. There it goes. Okay, and guess what? It's done. I'm going to, that went pretty fast, so I'm going to do this one and show you again just so that you see it. This has already been folded up. I'm going to fold these down. Get my piece. Here we go. Let's see, how did I want this? Okay. Connect them. And I don't mind the fact that this is showing, but you can there's this piece on the bottom, this other hexagon, and what you can do is you can actually use that somehow if you want to draw on that, and it can cover the place where these overlaps are. Now this again, I want to make sure everything is lined up in the middle before I glue and make sure it doesn't move. And as I mentioned before, if you are copying this pattern onto a heavy paper, just make the template that I've provided for you, put it together, and then you can just trace around this whole piece. You don't have to do this part where you attach two pieces together. But really, who doesn't want their templates to be able to be made on an 8.5 by 11 papers. Okay, so this is good. I check it again. Excellent. I'm going to make sure that it fits in there. And remember, you're not gluing to the bottom piece. You're not gluing to the part that has that little stage in it. You're just creating a sleeve. Make sure it goes all the way to the edge of the window piece. And here I made a mistake. I'm glad no, I didn't make a mistake. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to have, when you're putting it together, you don't want to have that sleeve over this second column. You need it over that first column. There you go. Okay. You can do kind of fun little things here. I'm going to put some glue on the back of this little dragonfly. Not all of it. It's a little gloppy, so I'm gonna, there we go. Get some of the glop off. And I'll let it hang over the edge a little bit. It's not glued down at the bottom of the tail, so that when I open it, I shouldn't be opening it this quickly because I just glued it, but so it goes. You know, it can hide after you. It can hide, but you do have to, there's little things to be careful. I noticed, yeah, I can go underneath. It doesn't matter. There we go. And then I can glue on more things. And on this one, I'm going to put a little bit of a embellishment on the top. There we go. And I'll probably cut this off. And there, it's all done. So pretty simple. A lot of little details to keep in mind. You'll be surprised at how many little mistakes you'll make with it as you get the hang of it. But I think you're going to love this. And it's a lot of fun. So play.